For 3 years, we loved his humor and wit and occasional serialization, while hating his penchant for procedural poppycock. Now that Netflix has grabbed the baton and trimmed the fat, what say we now about Lucifer?
You said
But first, I did. I'm David C. Robertson. The man you just heard is Jason Goss.
Hi.
And this is DC On Screen, where we discuss the DC Comics multiverse on film and television, give honest opinions on projects upcoming and past, and believe that every version of a property is valid, even if we really don't want it to be. If it's been released, it's fair game, so beware of spoilers, and welcome to the show. I'm gonna keep having problems with this. I feel like Orson Welles in the P commercials.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah, where he's like, the project's upcoming and past. For some reason, I like the way it's written, but it doesn't roll off the tongue. It's not easy on the ear.
Yeah.
So, I might have to change that because it just doesn't flow.
For projects past and future?
I don't know. I don't know. It's all about like finding something that my tongue can manage.
Yeah. Which is difficult.
It tends to be sometimes.
Yeah.
One might say it's almost like I shouldn't be doing a podcast.
Yeah. It would seem that way if there were any legitimate qualifiers that could tell someone they shouldn't be doing a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But no, anyone can do these fuckers. So, yeah, join in.
Yeah. So yeah, we are on Patreon, patreon.com/DC on screen. And, thank you guys so much, the people who go to the lengths of supporting us in this endeavor. It makes me happy, fills my heart with warmth and joy to know that people are out there willing to throw money at us to make this stuff. And we just made it a little more tempting, I guess I'll say, to at least become a $1 patron, though no one has yet. But both tiers now, the $1 and the $5 have the episodes, our normal episodes, ad-free. And then, of course, the $5 tier, you get Chasing Squirrels, you get warm-ups, you get Jason's pull list, mostly Jason's pull list at this point.
Oh, that's a
Marvel reviews. It is yeah. And you do a good job with it, man.
Thank you.
I usually binge them like 3 at a time, so.
Yes, that's like an hour and a half. Fuck.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I wind up like binging them. This week I've been on a huge Freakonomics binge.
Yeah, I understand.
So yeah, the only thing I think I listen to regularly is the Social Media Marketing Podcast and Imaginary Worlds. I'll listen to that every time they put out a new episode.
My list is several dozen.
Oh, Conan. I listen to Conan every week.
Yeah, that thing's delightful. Yeah, but, I mean, it would be an entire podcast, me just talking about the podcast I listen to. It's dozens.
Yeah, I listen to a ton
every single week. And then I always have one that I've found that's got a catalog of like 150 that I'm binging after that, and then that adds to the dozens. It's untenable.
And I usually wind up bringing up Squadcast on this show, and I usually will like get 2 or 3 weeks behind on the proper Suicide Squadcast show, and then I'll wind up doing like, I don't know, a month of Fans Without Borders where I'm just finding out what Ray and Brent are squabbling about for the last month.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Well,
so yeah, I get to yours every once in a while.
Well, Lucifer, maybe?
Yeah,
I guess.
Absolutely.
Weirdly.
Absolutely.
I said this before. I've said this on the regular feed, and I think you agreed with me once you finished it. If this had been the show the entire time, I would have been excited about watching it the entire time.
Absolutely. Yeah. They really did. They trimmed off the fat, and I mean, it was still a little fat, but
there was still, there were still crimes being solved, but they were solving those crimes over a couple episodes, and it was feeding into the main story. Like it felt like they used more of the Veronica Mars method than like the Law and Order method this time.
Right. But it's one of those things where that's one of the things that's always really annoyed me about the show is that like every week there was a crime to be solved and somehow it played into whatever Lucifer was going through.
Yeah, it played into whatever emotional lesson he was trying to learn that time. And it, even when it did it well, when you know that's the note they're going to be playing, you're still just, man, come on.
Yeah.
You've used that trick like 27 times this season.
And they also had
somehow.
They also had like a real problem with leaning on this one gag where Lucifer goes to the person that he's pretty sure is the murderer and goes, "What is it you desire?" And then they have like they build it up like he's about to say it, and then it's something silly, and he's not the murderer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
I just want to play ping pong in my underwear. Like, okay.
Yeah. And I don't feel like they did that too much this season. And one of the things you have to just kind of lean into the idea that there's going to be these procedural storylines that are going to tie into what Lucifer's going through, and that's just the show. They told us they weren't going to change it, so I really tried to not let that bother me this time. What I did love, though,
it was something that even when we were doing the episodic reviews of Lucifer, we would get annoyed at ourselves by kind of every episode that we did being continually annoyed by that.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a bit of a reprieve. Like, it's a thing that I kind of resent. Like, we wouldn't have been as annoyed by our own episodes had they been doing it differently than the whole time. But we were kind of bitching about you need to do this differently.
Yeah. But you know one of the things I loved about this season was the way they used the procedural as like their metaphor for their relationships. Like they were just, like they really just wanted to get back to normal and they just couldn't figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
Like there seemed to be a lot of like, here's a crime and Lucifer's back. He might show up, but it's not the same. It's weird. Stuff isn't right.
Yeah.
I enjoyed all of that. And oh my gosh. Okay, here's the thing. I could have used a lot more of. Like we have Eve, the first woman, she comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And she and Lucifer get back together and basically just start wreaking havoc. Or really just exact justice on like one dude.
Yeah.
Really would have loved to have seen more of that, but I understand at the same time that like it would have been so much harder for Chloe to forgive Lucifer if he did any more than what he did.
Yeah, he went too far and he came back and
he threw a dude out of the window and broke the dude's back, which the guy was a sex trafficker, piece of shit. So
complete piece of shit. But the scene was awesome because we got to see him actually use some of his powers.
Mm-hmm.
B, it showed you how much of an influence Eve can be on him. And then C, you got to see the aftermath is Chloe gets to watch him come back from that and kind of he knows he went too far. Like the show learned from it.
Mm-hmm.
It was again something they're doing this season that was kind of fresh for them. Was he learned lessons and actually changed his behavior as a result of them.
Yeah. I enjoyed his arc. I enjoyed him trying to figure out why he had devil wings. That was all pretty powerful. Like he looked at his wings and they weren't the same. They were, all deviled.
Yeah.
And I even liked Chloe's bit where she was like, she went abroad and found Father Kinley, I think his name was. And,
yeah, I think it was Kinley because it kept reminding me of Father Mackenzie. It was either Kinsey or Kinsey. I forget which one it was. But yeah,
Kinley.
The dude they caught me really early. Those first few episodes, and I watched this season about a month ago, so I only remember the parts that I really liked at this point. To be honest.
I'm sorry. You were waiting on me.
But I did really love. Like I watched it probably in about 3 viewings, and in the first one, I probably watched 3.5 episodes on average. And the first one, the one that really got me was those first few episodes where the big reveal is Chloe wasn't just out of town. She was literally at the Vatican, or I think it was supposed to be the Vatican. She was in Italy, the center of traditional Christian Catholicism, at least, and was trying to dive into the idea of the devil and blah, blah. Like one of the reasons I really liked it was because it made what we thought was going to be the series finale meaningful. Like it gave me a lot of hope that they didn't just go back to, Chloe just doesn't believe him or something. It wasn't, because it looked like that. If you watch the first part of the first episode, even it looked like that. But you get to the kind of the end of the first episode and you realize like, oh, no. She totally believes it. She's going undercover to try to take him down now. And she teams up with the priest and like that first little arc where she's undercover working for the Vatican trying to take down the devil. I kind of thought, okay, man, I had really no expectations for what they would do with Lucifer on Netflix, but damn, they're doing something with actual Lucifer, not, not the club owner of Lux, or just leaning on Tom Ellis being a charming motherfucker. Like, they're actually doing something with his character that involves him being, fucking Lucifer.
And I did love that opening bit where he's playing Radiohead in the club over a course of several nights. Yeah. That was fantastic.
That was good. That was compelling by itself. It caught me off guard how much I was compelled by this show early on. And then even what they did with the priest later, where he becomes he goes to hell essentially, and he had a good arc. I mean, in this show, what you see, and I love playing with the themes like this. Like, you see Lucifer, who, by the way, one of my favorite parts of, Neil Gaiman's idea of Lucifer, and I think this was Neil Gaiman's invention, or his turn on it, was, and they've said it in the show when he's been doing one of his bits, one of the more meaningful bits when it was on television, when he actually kind of yells at the sky, kind of, and says, like, you give all these people, all these humans, all these chances, and I made one fucking mistake. Oh my God, that's a compelling fucking argument. I love that. And they're playing with the idea that, like, at this point you're rooting for Lucifer, you're rooting for the king of demons, all the ruler of hell, and this priest finds a way to go so sideways that he's not going to make it into heaven. These are the ideas that you should have been playing with the whole time. I fucking love it.
Yeah. And I feel like they kind of glossed over it, but there was a bit in the comics, and it's been forever, so forgive me. But there was a bit in the comics where it was like, no, you idiot. He didn't banish you to hell. Hell was your gift. This was a reward for doing a job well done. Like, oh my God, you totally tried to usurp me. Have a place to rule, dude.
Not only did you try, you almost managed it. You know what? I've got a job for you. It's kind of like when you there's a saying among lawyers, if you're in a courtroom and somebody beats you, hire that motherfucker. Yeah, it has that feel to it. Like, damn, dude, somebody was bound to come up and try to take my throne, and you did a really good job. Here, I've got a really important job for you.
I've always loved all of the celestial stuff, and I want to know more about the history of the world, honestly, like this, and the history of this universe as far as the show is concerned. Every mention of Lilith, for instance, had my ears perk up. Like, you're doing Lilith. Of course, because Maze is of the Lilith. Okay, that makes perfect sense. I hadn't really even thought about
the actual mother of eternity.
Let's talk about that. What's going on there? And I'm dismayed because I feel like we're not gonna get a chance with that. But
I mean, maybe not. But as much as this turned a new leaf going into this fourth season. And they got a lot done. I mean, to be able to deal with Eve, and they put her in a pocket by the end of the season. Like, it was not about, literally they had an episode titled all about Eve. And by the end of the season, it really had nothing to do with her. Like, it was really back to their main characters and Lucifer's quest and his, what the fucking titular character of the show, back to his story. I think they could get a lot done. I mean, we could get into, God and Lilith and stuff like that by the end of this season.
Yeah. And I was really interested in Eve, though. I liked her character a lot. Like, at times she was kind of annoying, and then it was like, nope, there's some depth there.
Yeah.
And then by the point where it's like the last bit of the season is just like, oh my gosh, dude, he's just not that into you. Stop freaking out about Lucifer.
Yeah.
And you're also like rooting for Maze, though, because suddenly Maze is interested in somebody. And of course it's Eve. Of course it is.
Of course it is, yeah.
But I mean, can you blame her? I mean, damn.
Yeah. The Lucifer and Eve thing, it was like a Bonnie and Clyde situation. They weren't going to make it. And it would be fun to see, like, what would a Maze Eve situation really turn into. And the weird part is, like, I think you've seen enough character development from Maze, and she was one of the characters when it was on network TV that still managed to have a fair amount of development. Like, you really got to see some moments with her that were, I don't know. I mean, almost tear-jerking at times. Like, especially her love for Trixie. Like you got to see her grow a lot. And to see a demon turned into someone that you're rooting for because they've really grown as a person and they've got a lot of empathy that they didn't have when you were introduced to them.
Yeah.
It would be kind of fun to see her be like a nurturing character to somebody like Eve, who was, I guess, as the, first maternal figure, supposed to be nurturing, but ends up being kind of like she has a little bit of a vibe of like a teenage mom not accepting the responsibility kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of weight on her shoulders, and she finally gets the chance to remove that weight, and she just goes crazy with it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, they could do a lot with that.
I was very happy with Dan being a douche again. I liked how much he was hurting over Charlotte. I enjoyed all of that, man.
Actually, the thing I really loved about him this season was the way he approached Lucifer. Was early on in the episodes, he puts his foot in the ground and says, "We're not friends. You don't talk to me that way. That's not our relationship."
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of thought that makes the most sense overall. Yes, that is how they should be interacting.
Mm-hmm. And I like that. Like, we got that bit about him he was the corrupt cop a few seasons ago.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, we've been slowly, and too slowly for my taste, but slowly getting deeper into this idea that Dan is really, in a lot of ways, not a good guy.
Yeah.
He runs off with Maze and exacts justice himself. He kind of goes to bad guys and tips them off on Lucifer. Like, what the hell, dude? Like, what is your problem?
Yeah.
He's just a frustrated piece of shit.
I mean,
that you kind of root for.
I mean, it's a show where, in general, you watch it hoping people do better. Like, that's one of the main hooks of watching Lucifer. Is it's a bunch of characters who can do better, and you want him to. But he's one of the ones where he has constantly failed. I mean, first season, I forget how it was, but he was complicit in one of the major arcs that season with the dude with the mustache.
Mm-hmm.
Second season, I forget how it went down, but he essentially sentenced a guy to death by gang, letting somebody know where they were. As far as I can tell, the show's written him in as they're divorced, but he does want to be a dad. I mean, they've never shown any signs that he doesn't want to be there for Trixie, so they've always given us that to root for. But and on top of that, they actually you remember in season 3 there, they gave us all these little quirks with him doing improv and all the stuff that we were supposed to like him for, wanting to find himself and stuff like that. But yeah, actionably, he's been pretty terrible a lot of times.
Yeah. And, I understand that they had a trajectory for him, and they didn't have a lot of episodes to do it, which is what I prefer. So I'm not complaining.
Mm-hmm.
I was glad that both characters, both Dan and Amenadiel, had separate big things going on in this season. But I love that there was that little sliver at the beginning, just that little hey guys, we know that this is a thing, and we are addressing it. Lantern hung, but they're about to be really busy. Where Amenadiel kind of shows up and goes, "Hey, I got us tickets to improv," and Dan's like, "I'm not really doing that anymore." And that hurt, man, because I really love Dan and Amenadiel's relationship. I love that they were both doing improv. I loved all of that.
Yeah, but I think it was a good cut. I think it was. That relationship wasn't worth growing in the time they have. And instead of doing that stuff, that's the kind of thing that, when you're watching this episode and it's 22 fucking episodes long, hour-long episodes long a year, that's the kind of relationship you have time for, and you want to try to grow, and you give it a few minutes, and that's what you can serialize and get people to invest in the show with. But fucking 10 episodes, do your thing, tell your story, that's got to go.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of the fat.
That was part of the fat. It was fat that I enjoyed.
It was. I mean, the fat, it's fat, man. It tastes great.
Mm-hmm.
But when you want to get to the meat, I love how these metaphors actually work in real nutrition. When you want to get to the actual meat, you got to tell your story.
The procedural is that saturated fat.
Yeah.
That nasty ballily fat.
Yeah. That's the Cheez-Its right there. No, you need a chicken breast. Which is the Celestial storyline.
I actually really I felt like it was a little fatty, but I really liked the Amenadiel and Linda have a baby storyline. I liked Amenadiel's sister showing up.
That was several seasons worth of development that I enjoyed them. That should be part of the meat to me.
I love that. I kind of wanted Amina deal. Like for a minute, I was like, oh my God, he took that baby to the Silver City, that piece of shit.
Yeah.
I was so pleased that he didn't.
Yeah.
Like it had me, this season had me on the edge of my seat, dude.
Yeah.
I love that now that Chloe is an actual believer and knows for certain that these things are real. Suddenly Ella is like doubting her faith. Loved all of that.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that story. Yeah. That was good.
I liked Ella.
She's coming into work hungover.
Yeah, I liked Ella and Dan like getting down because they were just so messed up.
Yeah, I mean they were just. I mean, yeah, a lot of people have had that moment or that relationship or that night where it's just two fucking broken people just trying to feel better for a couple hours.
By the way, that nudist episode, man, the nudist college.
Yeah,
like she turns around and Lucifer's just standing there with his clothes perfectly folded and the belt hanging off where his dick would be.
Yeah,
like. I don't know. They tease a lot of Tom Ellis ass in this coming season.
I think you did actually see a Tom Ellis ass somewhere, didn't you?
Oh yes, quite a few times. Yeah,
a few times. Okay,
but I was pretty pleased that they had Ella in there too. I'm like, that's right, represent for us who like a little lady ass sometimes. Like, I mean, that's like I'm not a freak. Like, oh yeah, it's time to touch myself or something. But I'm like, That's
pretty
tastefully pleasant.
Yeah. I understand.
It's like that's right. Doesn't have to be lewd.
Nothing grotesque.
Nude doesn't have to be lewd.
Yeah. It's nothing more than you'd see in literally the New York Metropolitan Museum.
And I did enjoy
literally nothing more than you would see there.
I did really like how they stepped it up just a little bit. Like they didn't go so far as to be like dropping F-bombs and suddenly the show is not the show anymore. But it
would have been weird if it was suddenly like South Park with no bleeps.
Yeah, and in the Fox show, there would be times where like Dan would say, "This is crap," and I'd be like, you would be saying bullshit.
This is bullshit. Yeah.
Sure enough, Netflix, he's saying, "No, that's bullshit." I'm like, "That's right." that feels good.
Use it the way you would use it.
That feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked a lot of that. Oh, here's a bit. This actually made me cry. All right, took me off guard. Amina Deal tells Chloe that her father is so proud of her.
Oh, yeah, that got me too.
And not even thinking about it, she goes, "Well, thanks, but my father's passed." And he just looks at her very gently and says, "I know."
Yeah.
And then she realizes what he means.
Yeah.
Like, no, I've been to the Silver City. He's up there. I know.
I have previous. No, I've met him. Oh yeah, that really got me too.
Oh my gosh! Like her realization, just like and she played it really well.
She did.
Like she just like it's like this very subtle burden of emotion hitting her. Very nicely done.
And I liked it. Not only did I like that it was a nicely done moment, and it was a really cool thing for her character. Like, and fucking those two played the shit out of that moment. But something that also hit me when I was watching that moment was in the context of what Chloe's gone through in the last several months. Like, she realizes that she's been BBFs with the actual devil. And, like, not only has the hypothetical, are you a Christian or are you Jewish, whatever, all of the, is there an afterlife? Is there a God? All of that has become not a matter of faith, but a matter of, no, I've seen this with my own eyes. See, it would be, it'd be a lot to be taken from one realm to the other alone. But something that I loved was the idea that, like, that's a lot to take in. And she's been, like, in the meantime, she's got undercover shit with the Vatican and blah, 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 and blah, blah. And it hadn't even occurred to her yet that, my father, that I was, I loved my father, and it hadn't even occurred to her to ask. She hasn't had time for that.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to take in with that concept that she has not even had time to deal with her actual family. And he kind of has to tell her, no, I remember the context of of the environment you live in now.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yeah.
I liked it. Because there were people that, I saw this on TV Time. There were people that kind of were a little bit annoyed by her still not coming around. And I kind of thought, no, hold on. You should have been annoyed with her not coming around because she was supposed to be a great detective for 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be annoyed with her not coming around in 6 months after seeing an actual demon with demon wings. That's entirely different. Like, yes, she should have figured this out long ago.
Mm-hmm.
No, she should not be okay after knowing that it's true.
Right. Oh man. Oh, you know what I really liked?
What's that?
I often complain about how heavy-handed things like Supergirl are with social justice issues.
Uh-huh.
And I really loved how much Amina Deal struggled with, we've got this character who has brothers and sisters of many different races.
Mm-hmm.
And he's struggling to figure out like what this kid is talking about, being targeted by the cops. Like,
oh yeah.
And they didn't go so hard with it that it was just like, oh my gosh, okay, we get it. But they just did it subtly enough because he was also dealing with like, dude, this kid didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And now he's dead. Like, and he's struggling with how to be a good father, like trying to figure out, like, I loved all of that. Like, it was such a powerful episode. And I cried when that kid died.
Yeah, that was rough.
And I cheered when Amina Deal beat the shit out of that dude.
Yeah.
Like, that was just really well done, and it made me like sad that these writers weren't doing this all along.
I mean, I get that. There was a lot of this season that made me think that, but something
it's a lot like when I watch Dollhouse, I go like, damn, Joss Whedon should have been writing in short form on Buffy, because there are a lot of filler episodes of Buffy where she's just fighting a big ass rubber snake or something.
Yeah,
and you're like, I actually, the one episode where she was fighting a giant rubber snake was pretty poignant. The snake looked terrible, but
it was a giant rubber snake.
I think that was like the most egregious I can remember any of the villains looking, where she's just like hitting a giant snake and he's just like rubbery and bouncing around.
Right.
But yeah, there was a lot of filler there, and oh my gosh.
But something this show had the potential to do, and as you point out, they realized that potential. I think to full effect was like, normally when you talk about an issue like that, when you talk about like how minorities are treated in the from police, like you normally are talking about it from a human's perspective, which means you have to explain it through that human, which means you have to tell that story over an extended period of time, which means you have to basically, like, you're going to lose people in several ways. Like, you're going to, like, you can over-explain, you can under-explain. At any point, someone can philosophically just jump off board, but you've got to tell your story through that person who is someone that we're supposed to be able to relate to. And while we can relate to somebody like Amenadiel, he gets to come at it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Like, he gets to come at it from a perspective of this divine, we made all of you, and we don't even think like that. And like, they didn't have to do anything heavy-handed, and that's why it was beautiful, because all they had to do was show how shocked he was that this was even a thing. Yeah. And it made the point. It was really well done.
Yeah. Really well done.
Yeah.
God, I can't believe I'm doing so well with remembering what happened.
I mean, as you're bringing it up, I'm there, but fuck.
Oh God.
But it has been a month and a half, I think, since I watched that show.
And not that there's much May?
Early May? Shit.
Not that there's a whole lot to talk about in regards to this, but I do love Linda and Amenadiel baby proofing the ceiling fan because their baby might have wings.
That was cute. That was. Oh, I also kind of loved, it was a very real kind of thing. Like, Amenadiel brings over a bunch of stuff, and she kind of tells him, how did they frame this conversation? Like, he comes to her office, and she essentially tells him, I really appreciate what you're doing, but like, between me and you, this may not be where this is going. It was a very delicate conversation, and I enjoyed how they handled it. But
yeah,
it brought like a subtlety to it later that I did enjoy later when, and it was true. Like, they were together, they weren't, blah 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 blah. Throughout the series of the show, it was. I like that they made it a little bit troubled up front. Yeah,
and
it kind of endeared me that he was so. I don't know. I've always loved Amenadiel. He's always been one of the bright spots of the show, even when it was on a boring episode or something. He's always been one of the highlights. But
oh yeah,
how the amount that he wanted to invest in this child was pretty endearing. I mean, he was he was down day one.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. I think we pretty much covered most of everything.
Oh, we've forgotten one major thing.
What was the? Oh, him being. Him actually going back to hell.
Oh yeah.
Like I loved when he fully deviled out with his giant wings. Bow to your king. Oh,
that gave me fucking chills, man.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
That was amazing. The story arc for Lucifer himself, which is, I guess, the part we haven't talked about.
We glossed over it a little bit.
Yeah, we've touched on it, but his actual arc, I mean, throughout the show, he starts wanting to just fuck off on his job.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of him kind of wondering what his purpose could, like, why and what, but a bunch of existential shit. And in this season, we finally get to see the payoff.
Yeah.
He does. He goes to the extent of fuckery with Eve. Like, just, I mean, trying to lose this job, and he just cannot get fired, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then gets to see, A, what happens when he goes too far on Earth. B, what happens when some of his demons get loose because he wasn't keeping track of them like he should have. By the way, I love the priest being one of the demons that comes in and fucks off on him.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the guy sounds like a pirate.
Yeah. That was a good turn. But it finally, like, the show kind of really showed us, like, no, somebody has to do this. And like one of the last, maybe the last shot in this show was just like him sitting on this throne with his devil face, content, knowing that he needs to be ruling this place for the greater good. It was like if the show had ended there, I would have thought, fuck, that was a good bit
sense.
of yeah. I mean, he's gone through his little phase. He knows his purpose. He's not blaming God necessarily anymore. He's maybe not thanking him, but he knows what he needs to do. And there was a great moment with Chloe at the end of the show or at the end of the season where he basically, they have a moment where she kind of, they have a moment where Chloe basically says, like, I know who you are and I still love you. And he's like, I know who I am too now and I can't stay here. And that was actually pretty heartbreaking. I really enjoyed that moment. It was, after all the will they, won't they stuff, that was pretty fulfilling, I guess.
I know. You know what it reminded me of, though? It reminded me of that scene from the first Spider-Man from Tobey Maguire, and he's like, he tells Mary Jane he can only be friends. He can only offer friendship. And, and you're like, no.
But she's Mary Jane. It's not right.
But yeah. That's what it reminded me of.
That's about right. Like, she finally gets to a point where she understands, she accepts, and she loves all at the same time, which is kind of what the show's been teasing the entire time it's been airing. And then he is simultaneously at the point where he understands, he accepts, and he loves, but he's got to do this other job.
Yep.
And it makes you wonder, like, next season, they covered that much ground in 10 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. More. They've got 10 more, and then they're out. They could cover so much more.
What do you want to see in the in the last 10 episodes?
God and Lilith.
I want to see Lilith. I want to see God. I want him to be played by Neil Gaiman. Again.
That'd be perfect.
He's already been voiced by God in that What If episode.
Yeah.
I want to see the introduction of the Endless, and I want that to carry over into Sandman.
Yeah, and Netflix is playing with Sandman right now. So, not playing with. They're doing Sandman.
They are doing Sandman. It's funny. I listened to an interview with Neil Gaiman yesterday, and he was talking about a secret project he's working on that he can't talk about. And I'm thinking, I know what it is. It was kind of
Sandman.
It was like a month ago. So, but yeah, man, I'd love to. I won't lie. I would love to see Constantine pop up.
And
just
by the way,
bring Matt Ryan in for a second.
Oh God, yes. And there's no reason it couldn't happen. And the fact is, they're doing Crisis on Infinite Earths coming up. So if you just brought him in somewhere, you could still consolidate that later and not ever have to worry about it again.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I want to see Matt Ryan show up. Like, as much as I have not enjoyed Swamp Thing so far, if they said, hey, we're going to renew it, but we're going to bring in Constantine, I'll be like, all right, do it. Do it.
Oh, no. Matt Ryan's become like the Queen of Spades, man. You can throw that fucker and win any hand. It's fantastic.
Like, how do you not want to see Tom Ellis and freaking John Constantine show up together somewhere? And
and I should point out one, I would love to see that. Two, if Tom Ellis's Lucifer and Matt Ryan's Constantine show up somewhere, they're fucking.
Yeah, probably.
Those two are fucking.
Now, you know what?
I would be a little disappointed if they didn't.
If someone gave me the option, I would not renew Constantine and bring more Constantine into the world. What I would do, however, would be a team-up series called Constantine and Kipling. And it would be Wilby Kipling, played by Mark Shepard, and Matt Ryan playing John Constantine.
Oh, that'd be something.
And it'd be like a supernatural 1970s buddy cop show almost.
No, it'd literally be Supernatural.
No, it would be way better.
Supernatural 2.0.
Oh my gosh.
I get behind it. A lot of what I want to see in next season, though, like I would love some of the crossovers would be amazing, but what I really want to see is, like Lucifer has to find his way back to these people. Mm-hmm. He left the entire universe of his show behind in the last few moments of his show. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's in hell, and he knows the reason he's in hell, and now they've got to find a reason for him to leave. Mm-hmm. And he's gone. You have all these other characters. The show's named Lucifer. It's Tom Ellis' show. We know that. I loved actually hearing like Tom Welling even say, because Tom Welling has been the lead of a show. He enjoyed visiting the set. Like he enjoyed being there for the time he was there because he, got to go to the set and kind of see like what kind of, it was fun to hear him talk about like when you're on a set, there's a certain tone and a mood. Mm-hmm. And, with Tom Ellis, it was all like, we're having fun here. Same way I've heard this is all on like Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Same way I've heard Stephen Amell talk about, when I go to visit The Flash and do a crossover with them, it's a lot of fun. When you come to my set, it's kind of more like we're here to do business.
Oh yeah, there's a story.
Jesus Christ! I think a helicopter is on top of my house right now.
I hear it. That's crazy.
Good God. I mean, I live like 12 miles from an airport, but good God.
Yeah, there's a story where
alarms literally went off. There are car alarms going off.
Jeez.
Jesus Christ. I don't know what just happened there. I can't control that.
Yeah, it'll be all right. So there's an old story though that back when Sheldon Leonard was trying to recruit Andy Griffith for the Andy Griffith show, he was trying to, because Andy Griffith, remember, was he was a film actor at this point. He was a movie star. He was a movie star, and a comedian,
Yeah.
And they wanted him to do his like really super Southern comedy shtick as a character on a show for a TV series. So they built it into Make Room for Daddy, or the Danny Thomas Show, as it was called at the time. I think it was season 7. Danny meets Andy Griffith. And while they were there filming that episode, Andy was trepidatious. He was like, because everyone was running around screaming at everybody, and it was just chaos. And Andy tells Sheldon Leonard, he's like, I don't know if I really want to do this. This is awful. Like, TV is terrible. And Sheldon Leonard said, oh no, don't be confused here. This set is this way because Danny Thomas is this way. Danny Thomas runs around screaming at everybody and freaking out. So they in turn run around and freak out and scream at each other. You don't have to run it that way. So when Andy finally decided to do his show, he was like pretty calm and laid back. And it was apparently a pretty chill set, honestly.
Yeah. So everybody that worked there was like, yeah, time to go to work. No problem.
Yeah. He was just like, we are not doing this. We're not doing Danny Thomas show. That is ridiculous. Kind
of worked out for everybody that he saw that.
Yeah. So that's a real thing.
Oh, the helicopter really screwed up my thoughts. But before that, what I was saying before I got sidetracked by apparently how the set life is, but they've got to get back to Earth somehow. So they've, to me, completely justified Tom Ellis sitting on that throne at the end of that season. Mm-hmm. And now they've got to make a reason that he comes back. And it feels like there are a few ways to do that, but one of them is going to be you have to make so much trouble for some of the characters that you're already attached to that maybe he comes back as a result of it.
Yeah.
That'd be a little bit of like putting somebody in the fridge kind of situation, I guess. Might be a little boring.
He just comes running in. Chloe and Dan are sitting there. He's like, your kids! We have to do something about your kids!
Yeah.
It's Trixie. What, does she grow up to be an asshole? Sorry, Back to the Future.
Let's just say I'm about to meet her again in another way. I don't know. I mean, I don't. They've got to do something to get him back. And one of the things that was most compelling about this season was that ending, because it feels like they've got to get him back that way somehow, and it feels like they've got to get bigger.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to. I mean, fucking.
We've got 10 episodes. I wouldn't mind if they eschewed procedural altogether and just did straight up epic serialized. Here's Lilith. Here's the Endless. Here's all of these crazy things.
I mean, I'm really hoping they bring in the Endless and all that just as a transition to what they're doing. And then we can see Tom Ellis again, because, I mean, as much as we've been bored with, we haven't hated this show. We've just been bored with it.
Yeah.
As much
I want
as
to see
we've
the
been
end
bored with
times.
it.
That's what I want to see here.
I understand. But as much as we've been bored with it, Tom Ellis has not been part of the reason we've been bored.
No.
In a lot of this cast even is not even the reason we've been bored with it. It's just they haven't been doing anything with the story.
No, I've been fine with the cast for the most part. Yeah, I think I can't think
there
of
are
anyone
moments
I've had
here and there where
hated,
we're like, I mean, I don't know. But it's been, to me, it's been no one's fault except the direction the show was going and the speed at which it was going. The speed is probably the more important part, because they have been telling a story. It's just we started this in 2016. I mean, goddamn.
Yeah.
Like it took a fucking minute. So it's gotten somewhere. We just want it to go faster. It's finally going faster. And it seems like they're at a point where with his level of acceptance, they've got to go big. That's what I'm excited about. I think they have to go big. And I think they're willing to now. Because you remember, like, naively, and we were pretty harsh on them, that these producers left the cliffhanger in season 3 as like, we're gonna leave a cliffhanger and hopefully they'll renew us. No, they're not. That's never worked. It didn't work for Joss Whedon. How do you think it's gonna work for you? That was really, really dumb. That was a bad call. They got lucky, and they're in an environment now where there's a streaming service that can house the show and was willing to take it up, because they only need a few million and they can afford it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if they were on traditional network television, we would not be having this conversation right now.
Oh, yeah.
No fucking way.
No.
But yeah, they had the ability to actually, I mean, really, they got lucky. That's what my interpretation of events, they got lucky. But they left us with the cliffhanger. They got lucky. They got their season. And then now they're being told, it's your last season. This is all we're going to do. I don't think the showrunners are incapable of telling a story. I just didn't like how they were telling it. But now that they're being told, this is it, buddy, I think they're capable of telling us a good story. So I think season 5 is going to be a good thing. Yeah,
dude, if season 5 is anywhere near what season 4 was, I'm buying this whole series on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Season 4 has made it worth it.
Yeah. I mean, there were times in seasons 1 through 3 that you saw glimmers of like, no, this could be a good show. They would just stop fucking around for 40 out of the 55 minutes, some episodes. And this time they really did it. They buckled down. It was pretty great.
Yeah. Funniest line of the season when they were asked when Lucifer was asked if he bit the heads off of children, he says, "Oh no, I can't even stand the little buggers. I don't want to put one in my mouth."
Yeah, I remember that. That was pretty good.
Yeah, it remained funny, and it kicked it up a notch, man. Or several notches in my mind. Really became a much more cohesive, captivating show.
Yeah,
this season.
Remained funny is something that's a good point. It always was a show that was capable of humor and good at it when it wanted to. And this season didn't lose that. I
will say though, still the best episode is Linda's ex-husband in hell.
Oh, that still made it. Yeah. That was one of the moments where, like, watching week to week, that was one of the episodes where you kind of thought, like, man, why? This is what you're capable of. Like, why would you not do that every time?
This is like, what if Lucifer was Black Mirror?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
And you have that. You literally have heaven and hell at your disposal. And you're solving a crime in LA. You're doing a morality tale. Why? Like, why? You've probably, I think me and you have talked about this, but like, it was one of those shows where when it was canceled and Neil Gaiman was annoyed about it, we both kind of thought, why? Why are you, a master storyteller, annoyed about this product not being on the shelf anymore? Like, they're not doing anything even close to what you were capable of. Like, they're not touching the hem of your robe, man. They're not. Mm-hmm. I guess he saw the potential and knew where they wanted to go. I have to believe that, because after this season, there's some sense of like, oh no, this is closer to a Neil Gaiman story.
Well, that's the other thing is, though, he also understands that it's on American television, and when you're on a network in American television, that means you have to have a bunch of filler episodes, and it has to all kind of be like somewhat unserialized so that they can throw it in syndication and run it 50 million times a day without anyone blinking or wondering what happened.
Yeah. Like him and Ricky Gervais are just like, well, that's how it is.
Yeah. And I do wonder how much he thinks that part of his cancellation was just due to his, to American conservatism and being worried about the devil stuff.
No, I don't think so at all. Like,
you don't think so?
No, this show had a surprising amount of viewers from day one.
It did.
And I'm putting that in the context of, say, God, the Devil, and Bob, which made it 3 or 4 episodes in the South, made it a few episodes more anywhere else, and then made it, I think, 11 episodes or something.
That was a funny show.
And the weird part was, I have that DVD somewhere. It's a really good show. Mm-hmm. It was A, it was a really good show. B, it was not actually blasphemous. Just people, especially from the region we're in, were not willing to have some Jerry Garcia looking fucking god.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't blasphemous so much as it was sacrilegious.
But it was, the show itself was a morality play, and the whole deal was, there was the God, there was God trying to do right, there was the devil trying to corrupt, and there was Bob trying to do the right thing. It was a morality play. That was all.
I'll tell you what.
It was nothing different from 2,000 years ago, or not 2,000. It was nothing different from several hundred years ago, at least, when you had Greek morality plays. It was.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you this. All I really remember, the thing that stuck out to me about that show was an episode where the devil hires Martha Stewart to redecorate hell, and she winds up taking over hell.
Yeah, that was a thing. That was pretty funny.
It just made so much sense. At the time, Martha Stewart was just everywhere. No matter what store you went into, like, her face was just all over the place.
Yeah.
Of course she would take over hell.
Mm-hmm. I loved it, though. And it was like 2 years later, she went to jail for a second.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fun time.
Yeah. I need to rewatch God, the Devil, and Bob.
It's really good. I'll loan you that DVD. It's really surprisingly good show.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Like, there was outrage at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And this is, what, like early aughts?
I don't even think it was early aughts, dude. I think it was like late 90s.
Late 90s? We'll call it 2000, give or take 5 years. Complete outrage. And then I think now we're at a point where
2000, yeah, March of 2000.
Okay. We're at a point. Oh no, I remember that. Yeah, because I was in high school and I remember specifically watching the premiere of God, the Devil, and Bob instead of Family Guy and thinking I have to make a choice here.
Decisions must be made.
Yeah, and I was like trying to flip back to Family Guy during the commercials of God, the Devil, and Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, we're old. Yeah, like I think. Again, we're old. I think people have gotten a little bit past that. I mean, you can talk to people who can have extremely conservative views on a lot of things, but I talk to people all the time who have extremely conservative views on a lot of things and enjoy Lucifer as a show because there's a little bit more of an idea that stuff on TV is just stuff on TV. Mm-hmm. And it kind of makes sense. Like, you got to realize also, like, this medium has only been around for 70 years. So for the first 40, 50 years of that, it all seemed very meaningful. And now there's this slightly kind of postmodern feel to it where, it's just shown on TV. Don't worry about it. It's just a show. There's still a lot of outrage about shows and what they say and blah, blah, blah. But that's a lot of people's take on the matter. Like, the idea of being able to mount a show called Lucifer, where Lucifer is maybe a good guy or an anti-hero at least. That doesn't sound too crazy.
Yeah. I mean, he got blowback, but, what doesn't these days?
It's going to get blowback, but we have the internet now. I mean, you didn't get blowback in things 30 years ago because it took a lot of time to write a letter, buy an envelope, buy a stamp, send it in, all that. Blowback. And then somebody had to actually care and report it.
Right.
Blowback was hard to achieve. Now, blowback takes 15 seconds in a tweet.
Mm-hmm.
It's different. People are more accepting in certain ways. This show has a chance. And next season, whenever they decide to do that, because, by the way, between season 3 and 4, it took fucking forever. It was definitely not at the normal timing of that show.
No.
Yeah. But by the time they get around to it, probably next May, based on when they did this one. Oh, yeah. Plenty of time for them to really play with the story of heaven and hell.
Yeah. And the EP says that they're going to make every moment count. So I got my fingers crossed, man.
Yeah. Look, they did this season. There were very, very few moments. As I said, I watched the season in 3 little stints, and all right, the first 2 little stretches, it was released in May, and I'd find time on a Friday night finally to sit down and just watch. And the first 2 times I binged it, I pretty much had to look up at the clock and go, oh fuck, I gotta go sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And turn it off and come back. And then the last time I watched it, I didn't even realize it was the last episode. I was so immersed. It got to the end and I went, oh God, seriously? Oh,
yep.
All right. I'll see you next year.
Yep. Well, that's all I've got on it, man.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right. Well, hey, we surprised you guys maybe. If you don't listen to the main show, we've mentioned it several times on the main show that we have been enjoying it. So
yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, the Lucifer fans who listen to our show have finally been like, oh, God, finally.
Yeah.
They're not shitting on it.
We have spent a lot of time shitting on the show.
Mm-hmm. What's great, though, is that, so often we shit on the show and it was 15 minutes, 5 minutes, a 5-minute show of us shitting on the show.
Yeah.
And now,
we've had 9-minute Lucifer episodes.
Yeah. And now we like it. So it's an hour-long show of us gushing.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Again, thank you to our patrons.
Thank you.
Patreon.com/DC on screen if you want to be one of them.
We love you.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
I just sort of want to cuddle up next to you, whisper in your ear.
Oh, I wouldn't do that to them. It's almost what they pay not to have. Security that we won't try to cuddle them anyway.
All right.
You know what? You become a patron, we guarantee you we won't try to cuddle any of you.
Unless you ask for it.
Yeah. In that case, I'm up for it.
Yeah. My beard is scratchy, but it gives good back rubs.
My beard's not even all that scratchy. Just kind of softish. Got an 8-month-old. She'd cuddle up right next to mine.
Yeah. Well, DCOnscreen.com for all of our episodes, including our, crossover episodes, and that's all free. Just whatever. We don't give a shit. Go listen to them.
Yeah, they're there.
They're there. A lot of our listens, a huge chunk of our listens come from just back catalog. And that's how it is now because we have 556 episodes.
Mm-hmm. We've been doing this a minute.
For a minute.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm recommending Lucifer now. So go to Netflix and watch it, I guess. If you haven't.
Here's how deep the resentment was. I want you to get to this point, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Season 4 was that good. Just recommend Lucifer. Just go for it.
We'll see.
Just go for it.
We'll see. We'll see with season 5 if it ends as if it was as good as this season.
Well, it's like I said before. If it ended with season 4's ending, I'd be happy with the show.
Yeah, I'd be like, damn it. Okay, it was 70-something episodes. Last 2 seasons are phenomenal. It was a cookie. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, it's a
slog for a minute, but
yeah,
there's enough. There's enough there.
It's a hike. You're gonna be exhausted when you get to the end, but it's good view.
That's the thing. It's not even a slog. It's not a slog like Swamp Thing is a slog for me, or Krypton is a slog for me right now. They're just boring shows to me right now. And I don't know how to fix that, but it's not like you're falling asleep during these old episodes of Lucifer either. Like the first 3 seasons of Lucifer, it's just annoying with, it's like sitting down. It's like, how you sit down and it's not necessarily appointment viewing, but you sit down to get your oil changed and you're in the little lobby and they just have a Law and Order on.
Yeah.
You want to see how it ends.
Yeah.
But you also pretty much know how it's going to end.
Yeah. You've already seen The Butler.
Right. Like, the one guy who had 3 lines, he was the killer.
Yeah.
Not the guy who's the obvious suspect or the lady who's the secondary suspect. It's got to be the butler who always hated that guy for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I get that.
He pissed on the toilet seat too often, and the butler had to continually clean it up.
Here's the best recommendation I can give to it. That was good. Here's the best recommendation I can give. Put it on in the background. You'll enjoy it. Do your laundry watching Lucifer.
Yeah, that's a good call. The show is funny enough episode to episode that you're going to, You're
going to click the next episode. You're going to enjoy yourself for the most part. Draw, do your dishes, whatever. I mean, there's scarcely an act you can perform in normal human life at this point without being able to watch a show while you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I encourage that. Your brain should be able to multitask. I say go for it. Put it on a podcast. Learn something.
That's
not
right.
ours. You're not learning anything here. Put it on something that's educational.
No, put ours on.
But I would wager that you're going to suddenly find yourself sitting when you get to season 4.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of watching it on your phone, you're going to probably transfer it to your smart TV and watch it there instead.
Yeah.
You may even find yourself making food to sit down and watch it with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first 6 seasons you're gonna skim through. I mean, you may find yourself sitting down to watch Tom Ellis and Tom Welling on the screen together in season 3, and I can't blame you. Those are 2 very attractive men. But season 4, when the story gets deep, you're gonna make a bowl of popcorn. You're gonna sit down and watch fucking Lucifer,
and you may find yourself.
Oh, that's actually a good analogy.
All right, guys. Oh, sorry.
For anyone too young,
singular
for
you.
anyone too young, he's referencing David Byrne. Please look it up. It will do you a lot of good.
It will.
It's one of the parts of the 80s that I didn't dislike. I'm sorry, I'm doing it a disservice. It's one of the parts of the 80s that was fucking fantastic.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
If you, like me, disliked a lot of the 80s because of the hair metal and how much it took over the culture, please look up the Talking Heads. Please.
Talking Heads, David Byrne.
Look up the Talking Heads.
Do that.
All right, let's bounce. You ready?
Yes. No news this week because they're actually doing San Diego Comic-Con right now, so we'll talk about all that next week.
Oh, that's some fun stuff.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff is happening already. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to talk to you guys about it. Oh, sorry. I'm excited to talk to you about it. I will get this right one day. Singular. You are one person, audience.
To talk about it? I don't know.
You are one person, audience.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep some DC on your screen.
Bye.
Our intro music is by Jason Goss and Michael Shackelford. Michael's band, Galactic Engineers of Magnetic Sounds, or GEMS, can be found on SoundCloud and Bandcamp. Visit DCOnScreen.com to find our Patreon, merch, contact information, and every episode of the show for free, including crossovers we've done with other podcasts. DC On Screen is a maladjusted production. For more from me and Jason, including sketch comedy, vlogs, parodies, and our improvised web series Hey Guy, visit maladjusted.tv.
Wherever your company goes, your brand should follow. Image 360 makes that happen. Image 360 provides signs for your office, graphics for your fleet, complete displays for trade shows, and more. With decades of experience combined with advanced technology, our high-impact solutions help to get you noticed by quickly informing customers who you are and what you do. Learn more and get a quote at image360signs.com. Image 360, your expert source for comprehensive custom signs and graphic solutions.
Love and Gravity Season 2 stars Marcel Ruiz and Flor Gutierrez with Cecilia Suarez and Gina Torres. New episodes released every week. Subscribe to be the first to listen.